There is no end to the royal saga. King Charles' coronation is coming close, and now there is clarity on who actually will be attending. We are now understanding Meghan Markle shall be skipping the coronation ceremony of King Charles III, which is scheduled to take place on the 6th of the next month. But husband Prince Harry, in fact, will be attending the ceremony all by himself. Now, remember, speculations have been rife and ongoing. They've been amplifying regarding the couple's attendance of the ceremony ever since the countdown began, and also because of the open barbs that have been publicly explained by the couple against the royal family. Now, the tiff between the Prince of Sussex heightened in the recent past post the release of his book Spare. Then came a Netflix documentary on the life of the royal couple, which of course resulted into relations further increasing and the tension also increasing between both the sides. Right after these events played out, the couple stepped down from their royal duties. A royal expert has also said that King Charles shall not be missing the presence of the Duchess of Sussex at this historic event, and instead, according to a lot of royal sources, he's relieved with the absence. Now, this came and post the release of an official statement on the King's behalf, which confirmed that Prince Harry, in fact, will be attending the coronation. And as we pointed out, the Duchess of Sussex, in fact, will stay back in California with the two children. So what does this then mean as far as the future of the royal family? Are there any signs of things thawing between both the sides? We have a royal commentator, Richard, now joining us to help us understand how should we read these developments. Richard, we really appreciate you taking out the time and joining us here. Now there is some clarity. There is a lot of back and forth that was going on, whether Sussex will, want to attend the coronation, whether they will be invited, whether they'll accept it, so on and so forth. The confirmation is that Prince Harry, in fact, will be attending, but Meghan Markle will not be. How did you see the development? Expected lines?
Well, my feeling is that this is the best compromise in the circumstances. The circumstances, as you've just pointed out, are those where there's a very deep royal rift between the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, Harry and Meghan, and the rest of the royal family. I didn't think it possible that the Sussexes could not attend. At least there would be one of them there, simply because, though they are based in the United States, all the contracts they have with Netflix, with Spotify, and Random House, which published the memoir you mentioned, Spare, are regarding their status as a royal, the royal family. So the fact that Harry is coming and that Meghan is using, I frankly think, an excuse, you could read it as you like,
Sure.
that it's Archie's 4th birthday and she's remaining in California. At least there is some clarity now, but it does seem, you ask the question, will the royal rift begin to be healed? The answer would be almost certainly no, because a spokesperson for the Sussexes, who's unofficially a person here, has said that Harry will be coming very briefly. He'll be attending the ceremony. He won't be attending any other events around the coronation weekend. And there won't be any time to build bridges with the royal family, from what we understand. Also, there's, as you mentioned, a deep rift.
Yeah.
But so far as King Charles is concerned, as the head of state, he's a symbol of national unity. It's important to him, of course, that both his sons attend. So in a way, this compromise, however unsatisfactory, is beneficial to both sides at the moment.
Richard, I was looking at the headlines that most of the tabloids put out today post the confirmation that came that Prince Harry will be attending the coronation. And one that really stuck a note with me said that King Charles was with Meghan, when they got married, but she's decided to desert him. Are you also seeing it was Meghan deserting, or it was just no option at all?
Well, frankly, what we've seen since the Sussexes stepped back only to be forced to step down as senior working members of the royal family and making their future with their children in California, they've launched a series of very damaging attacks on it. There was the interview on Oprah, and then, of course, there was the Netflix docuseries, and subsequently Harry's memoir Spare, and a series of television interviews around it. He even called Queen Camilla, dangerous and wicked, and there's very little doubt that some of his revelations about his brother, Prince William, we always thought the brothers were inseparable. There was a lot of rivalry between them. Spare makes that clear. This has meant that the rift has deepened. And so far as Meghan's concerned, she does like to be the centre of attention, but the Sussexes should be worried because it's not only in Britain that they're very low in the opinion polls. Two recent opinion polls set in the United States by Newsweek have shown a huge swing against the Sussexes after Spare. Again, the contents of Spare were very detrimental to the royal family. So my own suggestion is it's high time the Sussexes carved out a constructive role in the future which did not involve such endless criticism of the royals, because they rely on the royal links for all their work.
Yeah, I think that's become a little problematic for most people to try and understand what really is happening and what the Sussexes want their position vis-a-vis the royal family. Because if you look at, as you rightly pointed out, whether it's the book, whether it's the memoir, the documentary, or the various interviews, they've hit out at the royal family time and again, specific family members as well. But when it came to their own children, they wanted the royal titles to be retained as well. So what do you think of the positioning of the Sussexes themselves? Do you think there is a grey zone there?
I think there is a lot of hypocrisy, quite frankly, because, as you mentioned, their interviews have been deeply damaging, as the book was. On the other hand, they feel that they were badly treated when they were members of the royal family, and they wanted an apology before attending the coronation. That essentially is probably why Meghan isn't going, that obviously they haven't got one. But so far as their future's concerned, it's so destructive when you constantly criticize and you don't go into paths such as Meghan going into politics, for example, Harry on becoming celebrity philanthropists, if that is what they want to do. But endlessly attacking and revelations, for example, they have a 4-book deal with Random House, and the one memoir, Spare, has been a bestseller. There could be 3 more books there, and they could all be detrimental. So the royal family, when they see Harry at the coronation, will talk, I suspect, only of the weather. You can't trust them at the moment.
I also want to understand the thinking within the royal family at this point. I'm sure you would have spoken to a lot of people who are close to the royal family or people who work for the royal family. Now, the royal family feels that they had in fact been silent. They never hit out at the couple. So the Sussex should have also kept family matters personal. Now, I want to understand the steps that have been taken by the royal family. For example, the notification that was given to Harry and Meghan as far as vacating the official residence in the United Kingdom is concerned. So do you think, as far as the royal family is concerned, the chapter as far as Harry and Meghan for United Kingdom is concerned, that's already over?
I think that's a very fair question. I think foreseeably, yes, because, as you mentioned, after Spare was released and it was so detrimental, the Sussexes were given notice to leave their base in Britain as Frogmore Cottage, and there's no doubt that was a sign of royal displeasure. King Charles is making sure that the various properties, because Frogmore wasn't occupied, the Sussexes are based in California, they've only fleetingly been over to Britain, but the facts are there is a deep rift, and I think so far as the royal family are concerned, they feel that anything that's said to the Sussexes could appear in an interview or in a book, and there is no trust. And certainly the relationship, and this is why it's so deeply sad, between William and Harry, that is at an all-time low, and I simply can't see this improving foreseeably unless the Sussexes in future months and years, and as you say, there was the interest that they have in giving their children the titles, the option of having a prince and princess and the HRH. We'll have to see what happens there, but it's a very sad situation. The only way forward in the long run is constructive, but ought to be constructive, but I can't see any reconciliation possible at the moment.
I want to understand what did many experts feel on the ground, commentators like you. How did you see the developments from the Queen's demise to the coronation? Because when the demise happened, when the family stepped out, the four of them in one frame, many thought possibly this could be the best way of bidding farewell to the Queen, and possibly in this hour of grief, you'll have the family come together. Was that the expectation within many as far as the royal family is concerned as well? That possibly that could have been the moment where the family could have come together?
It could have, so far as the press and so far as the world were concerned. But from what we understand, relations between the then Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, they're now Prince and Princess of Wales, William and Kate, and also Harry and Meghan, were far from good. And this was put on more or less as a show of unity because the Queen had just died, and obviously it was a very sensitive period. But there's no doubt that the Queen's last years, this was the break with the Sussexes, and the interview on Oprah when the Duke of Edinburgh was in hospital. They didn't know he was going to be when it was planned, but they still went ahead. The facts were that this was something very difficult for her to cope with in her 90s. There's no doubt at all that in Britain, not only the Sussexes are at war with the press, Harry sees it as his life's work to clean up the British media. You can understand after the tragedy of his mother's death how deeply he feels. But the Sussexes believe that the royal family colluded and connived with the British media to drive them out, which simply makes no sense. They were once the hope for the contemporary monarchy, especially in the Commonwealth. Okay. And what's happened is very sad. But equally, as I say, I can't see, as the future weeks and months progress, maybe we'll have signs of reconciliation, but certainly there's not anything at the moment. And it's worth remembering that in December and January, with the Netflix docuseries and with Spare and with the endless interviews, about half a dozen Harry did, they did a lot of damage. The support for the monarchy among young people has gone down a great deal since the Oprah interview, and this has continued.
Yeah. So you think there is no way forward as far as a truce is concerned until unless something really out of the ordinary really happens. Richard, we leave the conversation there. Really appreciate you taking out the time and joining us here. We'll really have to see what really leads up, the kind of events that take place leading up to that coronation. Some other reactions also now coming in.
Charles will want his son there, there's no doubt. You know, it's the biggest moment of his life, the fulcrum of his career and life. I think it's possible that, 5-10 years from now, they could be a patching up of this relationship. It's always very difficult, I think, in families when there is a split in two different countries and, the wives are not aligned. And I think it's going to be very hard to mend the rift. Perhaps when the king dies, it could happen. I'd like to think it would, because there was a closeness, whatever Harry likes to say now. Everyone I've ever spoken to has said that this was a very close fraternal bond for a long time. It definitely soured when Harry came out of the army and was suddenly confronted with his sort of secondary status. But there was a deep affection there too. I mean, these two boys shared, they're the only people who know what it was like to be the children of Princess Diana, and that the great love they both shared for their mother. This was a great bond that they shared. So I'd like to feel that they will come back together, yes.
I think there's something so relatable about rifts within families. It's something that I think every family can relate to, every person can relate to. So to see them come together in that way, and we've seen them come together in that way in the past, certainly for the Queen's funeral, for the Jubilee, for Prince Philip's funeral, that they are able to put those things aside and focus on the monarchy, which is something that is part of the Queen's legacy, which we know Harry loved his grandmother so much, and it would be something he'd want to uphold.
The coronation is not just a family event, but a symbolic one. So I think the new king, despite the controversies of the recent past, would probably want to bring his family together for this big event for his family, for the monarchy, and for Britain.
Pay his respects, whether he's part of the royal family or his royal duties or not. He should just pay his respects to his father. It's been a long time coming, and it's a big deal after the Queen was, for as long as she held that position, to finally be a new king or a new coronation.
I love Prince Harry, and he should definitely go to the coronation, yes, 110%. We have to not be too critical and remember that Harry is just a human being, just like anyone else, yes? And remember the situation with his mother and everything like that. I don't have nothing against him.
Well, that is his father, isn't it? He should. He should come. He should come. That's his father. I don't care what goes on, that's his father.
I'm a very family-oriented person, so I just hope when they come together, they should be able to sort whatever issues they have among them.
And as the coronation fever grows in the United Kingdom, preparations are in full swing for this historic event. Amidst this, a rather interesting feature has popped up regarding the King's crown, wherein a British millionaire, Justin Smith, has crafted a special crown for Charles III, designing it with Scrabble tiles. Not just this, new coins of 50 pence and €5 have also been unveiled to the public, a special edition for the upcoming coronation. Let's take a look.
So there's 319 Scrabble tiles in total. There's 287 of the original Scrabble tiles, which are the white ones with the black lettering on. And then there is the deluxe version, which are the black background with the silver lettering on, and there's 16 of those. And then there's also 16 of the tiny little travel size ones as well, creating some words on the ermine part of the crown at the bottom. So there are some hidden words in the crown, and that took a while to do actually, because I laid it all out on a pattern to make sure that it was going to work well around the gemstones. And there are words like play, coronation, word, and there's several others actually, and there's a few hidden meanings inside the crown as well. So I think it's kind of fun that if people can see it spinning, to be able to have a look for the words and see if you can find them.
We have a full range of coins to celebrate the coronation, starting with a 50 pence. We also have a £5 crown and an ounce range. The 50 pence on the reverse, on the back of the coin, is a design of Westminster Abbey, and that is obviously where King Charles III will hold his coronation. And then on the reverse of the £5 crown is a beautiful depiction of the St Edward's crown, which will be used in the ceremony as well. The coins are going to be made in base metal, silver and gold, and will be designed for, a lasting memory of this historic occasion. And also, I'm delighted to say that these coins will also be going into circulation. The 50 pence will be going in this year. We've been very fortunate that King Charles has approved all of the coins in the range, including the obverse with the crowned effigy and all of the reverse designs. Yeah, it's such excitement for our workers because most people, in fact everyone who works in this factory and this establishment today, has never seen another monarch on their coins. And this is the first time that in our lifetimes that a different monarch has come to be having a coronation. So it's a really exciting time for everyone who works at the Royal Mint.
The making of coins for coronations is actually a reasonably modern thing. So it begins with the commemorative coin for Elizabeth II, when we do a coronation crown piece. We see Elizabeth, an equestrian portrait of her. So this is actually only really the second commemorative coronation coin that we've ever done. That being said, in the past, if you were to go back in time, what tended to happen was that the mint tried to get the new coinage out for the reign in time for the coronation. So the new obverse and the new reverse designs would usually traditionally come out roughly around the time of the coronation. They didn't have a coronation coin, no, but what there is a strong tradition of, which the Royal Mint has been involved with quite heavily over the centuries, is a tradition of coronation medals. And that begins with Edward VI and Henry VIII's son, and from that point onwards you get these coronation medals which are issued to mark the coronation. So they're given out to the high-ups, the gentry and the nobility as a specific mark of the coronation. And the mints often design them. And that is where the coronation crown piece comes from in terms of what we're doing with the effigy. Because on those medals you often see the king or queen crowned. And that's transferred through to today. The obverse reflects quite a lot of history. So the obverse is channeling those coronation medals from previous reigns. And in particular, it probably is channeling George VI quite a lot, which is the king's grandfather. So he's probably looking back on what has gone on in previous kings. Because on these coronation medals, what you tend to see is a crowned portrait of the monarch. And certainly in the 20th century, you get this crowned portrait wearing the Tudor crown. And that is what Charles is wearing on these coins here. We see him as a crowned monarch, and he's wearing the Tudor crown. So he's actively referencing particularly a lot of the 20th century coronation medals.